Hey everybody, welcome to another video. This is one of the videos that was very reluctant to be recorded. I'm actually a little bit knackered right now. I played soccer for quite a long time, for like roughly 3 hours with the team that I play on Sundays these days. And when I came home I was just really tired, but I wanted to record the video. So when I turned my microphone on I realized that my battery was apparently already empty. And I just thought, okay, let's go down to the shop that is right in my building. It's gonna take about like 3 minutes and just buy the battery again. So I went down there and turns out that of course the only battery that they don't have is the one that I need. So I thought to go just to the other side of the street. There's another shop and I checked that one out. They didn't have it either. So I made my way to the local supermarket and turns out that it's closed today. So I had to go to another shop, and to cut the story short, like I was like outside for like roughly 30 minutes and I was not really too happy about that. First world problems I guess, but still it was not really what I expected. When I left my apartment I was like, okay, I'll just get the battery like real quick. But the topic that I want to talk about today is actually Dota 2, and in particular I want to talk about like the lack of a surrender option. To just give you a little bit of a backstory here, I've been playing Dota 1 for like a long time. I played Dota 1 for like roughly 2 years and I stopped when my studies got really serious because it was just too time consuming. So I forced myself to completely abandon the game and not play it anymore, since it drained too much of my time. So back now in Dota 2, I watched a couple of the games, and of course I watched the international and other big games that were played, but I only played really occasional on my account. But now a lot of my friends are actually starting to play a lot of Dota 2, so I was like, well, I can actually play with you, and I started to play a little bit more. In the last 2 weeks I had a little bit more time at my hands, so I thought, okay, let's just get into it and try to really just level up a little bit. So I've been playing quite a bit, and I'm actually like also quite annoyed about the matchmaking system, and that it like mixes you up with people that are just absolutely not on your level, either like really a lot better than you or a lot weaker than you. But that's not really the topic. I mean, too many things factor into that anyway. It's like you play a hero that you aren't that familiar with. A lot of people apparently don't look even up hero guides on the internet before they play a hero. But that's not really the topic today. I want to talk a little bit about the lack of a surrender option, because I posted something about it on Facebook on my fan page, Khaldor TV, and there was quite the heated discussion with people, some of them agreeing with me and others just trying to tell me or to explain to me why a surrender option is a bad idea. So in my personal experience, I'm actually really annoyed that there is no option to surrender as a team, not as like an individual, because like we all hate leavers, we hate them, they ruin games, and there should definitely, like, if you have leavers in your team, always make sure that you report them. But I personally think that one of the weaknesses of Dota, or one of the things that is really not that great about the game, is that a lot of the games last very long. So it's a very time consuming game. And that's not in itself bad, but like quite a few times you have like one of these games where like already in the early game it turns out that one of the guys that you have on the team is a feeder. Like he feeds the entire time, and after like already 10 minutes he's 0-8 and ends up with being like 0-15 or whatever. It doesn't really matter all too much. If that guy has an important role in the team itself, like for example he's like 1 or 2 carries or whatever, it doesn't really matter, then it gets even worse. So in a lot of these situations, especially if you suddenly have 2 of those guys on your team, you already know roughly after 15 to 20 minutes, okay, this game is kind of over. Like the other team has a kill lead with like 20, they already pushed down your lanes, and there is just no way for you to recover. I mean, there are a couple of times when your comeback is possible, like you have a Phantom Lancer on the team, for example, or a Phantom Assassin, and if they get their farm and are really well fed at some point, they get their items, then they can definitely change one of those battles. We will come back to that a little bit later. But like in the scenario that I'm describing, like most people already know, okay, it's over. But the problem is you just have to sit there and you have to wait for the other team to kill you. So you try to do something, but they won't even accept that they can just push down a lane and kill you right now, because they are like 5 level above your own heroes. There's nothing that you can do anymore. But they of course enjoy the game quite a bit, since every time a hero appears on their minimap, they can just chase him down and take him out. So for them it's like quite a lot of fun. But the rest of the team, like the other side, is just sitting there and they can't do anything. Every single time they leave their own base, they're immediately dead. Like everyone knows how the game is gonna end, but if the other team doesn't end it, and sometimes they even can't because like it's too hard for them to really push down a lane when the other team is defending, they just can't end the game. So what kind of happens is that you lose 20 minutes of your life each and every game that happens. In my experience it happens quite a lot, and that is, at least for me, very frustrating. And it's also one of the things where I started to not enjoy playing Dota a lot anymore. And in general I really like the game. it's very similar to Dota 1. They took like all the heroes over into Dota 2, like they renamed a few of them. They have a couple of new abilities, they changed a few things like with the items. But in general, if you played Dota 1, you're very, very familiar with Dota 2 as well. But this is one of the things where I really think that they should have like a surrender option as a team, that if all 5 or let's say 4 the players in the team agree, that you can just simply leave and say like, all right guys, we've lost this, and it's absolutely like take the win and we're going to queue up for the next game and hope that we don't end up with a beta again. And I posted this on Facebook, and I was actually really surprised by the reaction of a lot of people. And I personally think that a few of them are probably like a bit elitist about it, because they say, well, we hate LoL. LoL has a surrender option, so we in Dota, we don't need that. But in my personal opinion, there's like nothing that actually speaks against it. Like the argument that popped up the most when I just have a look here at it is that people say like, well, if there's a surrender option, then you don't learn the game. You will surrender too quickly, and there are a lot of comebacks. The Dota is a lot about the comebacks, that it's depends all on one team fight. If you win a team fight, then you can just kill the entire team and you will go down a lane, you kill the barracks, and then everything is cool. But the problem is, like, of course there is there is definitely like the scenario where you quit with the team and you could have won it later on. I had a really interesting game just recently where we were pushed the entire time, and I played a Phantom Lancer, and my team was actually like, I mean, they were well experienced enough to let them know that I just had to get my farm, and then we could push down the lane, and that's exactly what happened. Like, they held the base with like 4 heroes the entire time. I just kept farming and farming and farming, and then as soon as I had my items, we could push and win the game. But that happens very rarely, and this was also one of the closer games where you knew from the start, okay, we have a chance to win it. And I personally think that maybe 1 out of 10 games that you lose in a scenario like this, you will be able to make a comeback. And I don't see the harm in newbies or newer players or more inexperienced players surrendering in a game where they could have won it potentially. Because the lack of a surrender option to me personally is like Blizzard telling me in StarCraft 2, no, you can't leave the game before your opponent killed your last building. That's absolutely retarded in my opinion, because like, in StarCraft 2, okay, I know that's of course a bit of a stretch because it's a 1 versus 1 game versus a team game. But in StarCraft 2, if you look at it, like when you are down 100 supply and you are down 2 bases, you know that the game is basically over. You go into the last fight, you lose the fight, and you're like, alright, I can't win this anymore, GG, and you leave the game. And the same that people say about like Dota 2 is also kind of true in StarCraft. There are a couple of matches where you think you've lost the game, but because you don't have the perfect information about what's going on, you might have a chance. One of the famous games there is definitely Idra versus MMA, where MMA accidentally killed his own expansion, and Idra, after a fight, just left the game even though he had a really good position in the game. He just didn't realize it, and well, we all know Idra, sometimes he just leaves games too early. But that does not really prevent you from learning the game. And I feel that the same is also true for Dota. So if you, for example, assume that what people have been saying, like in the comments on Facebook, is true, that people will leave too early sometimes, that is one of the issues that will then happen on the lower levels. But as soon as you are more experienced, as soon as you have more games played, you will kind of realize that it's more about the roles that the heroes have in the particular fights and in the match itself, that sometimes in the early game you just get slaughtered, but if you are able to survive long enough, you might have a chance to come back later on. And that's just an experience curve that you have right there. So you will learn what's going on and how you deal with this. So I personally don't see the problem with people sometimes leave games too early, because given time, they will definitely find out, all right, I could actually have stayed there. And we're also talking about a scenario where at least 4 people of a team have to say like, well, we've lost this. And if you have like 1 or 2 players that have a little bit more experience in your team, they will actually tell you, well, listen, we have not lost this yet. We can actually still win this. Yes, we are down in kills and we lost our like tier 1 towers, whatever, but we can still come back if this hero plays his role, but well, if we get a good team fight and these things. So I was really surprised when I saw people just talking about it and saying like, yeah, well, you know what, it's all about the comebacks. And I actually think this is a really, really bad argument, because even if it's like 2 out of 10 games where you make this comeback, in 8 of these games I waste 20 minutes of my life just sitting there and getting slaughtered. And it's not only about me being on the losing team, the same issue is also true if I'm on the winning team. Like I had a couple of matches where we destroyed the other team. Their carries didn't get any farm, there were feeders, we took them out the entire time. And then when we wanted to end the game, like a couple of the people on my team were just like, nope, I don't want to push. I don't want to push, I just go jungle and I want to get my kills. I want to get my ultra kill because I'm such a skiller, I'm a pro. So they just wanted to get like their 20 kills or whatever, and they didn't absolutely refuse to end this game and push down. Which left like 2 or 3 heroes on my team that were actually interested in winning the game and ending it. And the other team was just sitting there and like, guys, we can't do anything. So that was quite frustrating, not only for us as the winning team, but at the same time also for them as a losing team. And I just don't see the argument that you can make to say that the surrender option would not have some use. Because if it's in a pro game, then it's a little bit of a different scenario, I feel, because you have a certain responsibility towards the viewers that you have out there. So surrendering right at the beginning, which pros would not do, I think so, would be also disrespectful to the viewers and to the sponsors. But I'm playing this currently not with the team, I play this currently just, I'm solo queuing. So I want to have this option. And it's of course a different thing if you say like, yeah, well, you should play with the team. And I absolutely agree, I should always play with the team. But because of the different time zones, it's not always possible for me to just queue up with a couple of friends. That doesn't work like this. I'm in Korea, a lot of my friends live either in the US or in Europe, so it's really difficult. And the same is true for a lot of other people. They might not have a lot of friends that play Dota. And the comments that I got is like, if you can't play a Captain's Draft, for example, there you have like a surrender option. But I don't feel that I should be forced to play a certain mode in the game just to enjoy it. It's difficult enough being matched up with the people that you are right now. I played on the new account that I got, like within the last 2 weeks, I played like 100 games in those 2 weeks. And the people that I get queued up with is absolutely horrible. Sometimes it's really nice teams and we have great games, but quite often you get queued up with people that immediately upon like entering the game start using voice, and the only word that they know in English is fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. So you have to start muting voice already because of that, because they just don't stop, and then you have like a feeder in there, whatever. And I know that an MMR can't be perfect, but after a lot of games played, I feel it should at least have a little bit of an idea what exactly is going on. So that's already a little bit annoying, and we might talk about this a little bit more in detail in the future. But if on top of that, I also, in games that I know I have lost, have to stick in there for another 20 minutes, that is absolutely annoying to me, because that's time that I lose where I could just queue up, like leave the game, say like, alright guys, well played, good job, well done, you deserve the win. You leave the game, you queue up for another one, and you have another match. But because Dota also takes quite some time, you just sit there and you have to wait that out, and that might leave you in a position where you can't play another game, you have to leave, because as I said earlier already, Dota takes quite a long time. If you have like a really good match going on, that can go for quite some time. So I personally think that there is no real argument to support the theory that you should not need a surrender button. People were talking about like skill. Dota takes skill, if you don't want to do that, go and play LoL. I don't want to play LoL, I don't enjoy LoL. It's great that LoL is out there and brings people into esports, but I personally don't like it. Like, I can't watch it, I just, the LoL bug hasn't caught up with me, I don't know. I like to play Dota, I enjoy watching Dota, and I would like to play that and also enjoy those games, but right now I feel that quite often it's a real waste of time, and I don't see the skill difference in having a game with a surrender option and having a game without one. Every single RTS game that you play has basically a surrender option, because of course you're the only player in there, you're an individual, so you can leave at any point in time. You don't get any problems if you leave too often as you do in a team fight. And of course you should never be a leaver, but that's a different story. We're talking about like 4 people of a team of 5 at least saying yes, this is over, and then just leaving it. So I was pretty curious what my YouTube subscribers think about that, and I would really like to have a bit of a good discussion in the comments. So if you've been playing, doesn't have to be like Dota. I don't want to have like any LOL versus Dota comments in there. If there are too many, I will actually delete them, because it's just like pointless and it's not really the topic here. But if you have experience with either LOL and the function that you have implemented there to leave a game as a team and want to comment on that, yeah, absolutely, you're welcome to do that. And at the same time, I would like to have the Dota people just talk a little bit about what their opinions on that is. Because maybe I'm missing a point here, but I was trying to explain like in detail now what exactly and why exactly I'm thinking that. So I hope that I made sure that my points came across. So definitely make sure that you like the video and that you also comment in the comments and talk a little bit about why you think there should be a surrender option, or why you think there shouldn't be one. That's it for today. Talk to you soon, guys. Have a good Sunday.